The oldest, the most profound, the most universal of all symbols is the human body. The mysteries of every nation taught that the laws, elements, and powers of the universe were epitomized in the human constitution. God is considered as the grand man, and conversely, man is considered as the little god. Continuing this analogy, the universe was considered as a man, and man as a miniature universe. The greater universe was termed the macrocosm, the great world or body, and the divine life or spiritual entity controlling its functions was called the macrophosophos. Man's body, or the individual human universe, was termed the microcosm, and the divine life or spiritual entity controlling its functions was called the microprosophos. This is the wisdom that the ancients left for future generations to inherit, so they too could come to this knowledge. And now modern science has not only proven these analogies to be true, but offers much more insight into our true divine nature and our interconnectedness to our Creator. Manly P. Hall, the famous occult teacher, stated, "It is difficult for many to realize that they are actual universes, that their physical bodies are of visible nature through the structure of which countless waves of evolving life are unfolding their latent potentialities." Bryant A. Myers, B.S. and M.A. in physics, in his book PEMF, The Fifth Element of Health, states, "Even galaxies and stars pale in comparison to the workings of the human body. There are 92 naturally occurring elements on Earth, and our bodies are predominantly made of hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen. Then consider that 90% of our body mass is in fact stardust, because all of the elements except hydrogen and helium are created in stars, with elements heavier than iron coming from supernova explosions. We are truly made of star stuff. There are approximately 100 trillion cells in the human body, and they all synchronize and regulate the entire body's processes. It is estimated that the body has somewhere around 100,000 complex molecules performing an estimated 400 billion or more chemical reactions each second. To give you a sense of how big 100 trillion is, imagine yourself counting from 1 to 100 trillion. If you counted 1, 2, 3, 4 for each second of a 100-year lifetime, you would only get to about 3 billion seconds. You would need about 33,000 lifetimes to count from 1 to 100 trillion. In fact, the human body has 300 times more cells than there are stars in the entire Milky Way galaxy. And each cell is made of complex macromolecules, smaller molecules, and ultimately atoms, which are constituted of quarks and electrons. And according to an estimate made by engineers at Washington University, there are 100 trillion atoms in an ordinary human cell. By a same remarkable numerical coincidence, the number of cells in the human body is about the same as the number of atoms in each cell. It's a fact that there are more atoms in your body than there are stars in the entire universe. Cells divide and multiply, which is how the human body grows and changes. Cells with similar functions join together to form tissue. Tissues of similar functions form an organ. A cell consists of protoplasm, a living substance that is 70% water, surrounded by a cell membrane with the nucleus inside. Mitochondria make the physical energy for our cells. Only about 50% of cellular energy is provided for the body to use. The rest is required for cellular maintenance. Each cell is comparable to a battery, positively charged at the outer wall and negatively charged inside the wall. Thus, every cell generates its own electrical activity and magnetic field. A healthy cell has an electrical charge of about 70 millivolts, volts serving as the measurement of electrical activity. When the body is diseased or poorly nourished, a cell's membrane charge reduces to about 30 millivolts, which is insufficient for the transportation of nutrients into the cells. The physical metabolism slows and cells die. The general electrical activity of the physical body is reduced as well. Deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA, is the code of life, as it houses our unique genetic information in the nucleus of every cell in the form of chromosomes, which are long strands of DNA molecules. While microscopic, the DNA molecule is one of the largest known molecules. It is arranged in a double helix, resembling a spiral ladder. DNA is a highly complex substance formed from a chain of chemical units called nucleotides. Each nucleotide unit contains sugar, phosphate, and one of 4 kinds of nitrogen-containing compounds called bases. The sugar and phosphate form the sides of the ladders, and the bases link in the middle to form the rungs of the ladder in a double helix. The nucleus of every cell in the human body contains 46 chromosomes, arranged as 23 pairs. The 4 bases are adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine. DNA is like a fingerprint. It is unique to each person. Genes within each DNA molecule contain the information to make proteins, chemicals that enable the body to work and grow. Studies by Fritz Albert Popp and other researchers have proved that DNA is light. Popp demonstrated that DNA operates not only chemically, the long-standing theory, but at a level beyond. It is essentially a storage unit for light and a source of biophoton emission. Photons compose the electromagnetic spectrum. They drive the body's processes. At different frequencies, photons produce different effects. Popp and others maintain that the body is actually surrounded by a field of light and that the DNA responds to and interacts with the various electromagnetic frequencies found in this field. The physical body and its DNA rely upon light for health. Certain types of light cause problems while others are beneficial, and even healing. Dr. Joanne Smith Sonneborn at the University of Wyoming exposed paramecia to far ultraviolet radiation, which caused DNA damage and shortened the cells' lives. When these injured organisms were exposed to near ultraviolet radiation, which is closer to visible light, the damage was repaired and the aging reversed. How does external light reach and affect us? Researchers David A. Jernigan, D.C., and Samantha Joseph, D.C., explored photons and discovered that they operate as waves and particles and enter the body primarily through the eyes. The eye translates light into electrochemical impulses for the brain's interpretation. The light proceeds into the body's crystalline matrix or fiber optic network. By moving from the rods and cones into a different set of cells, called the molar cells, the light accesses the crystal matrix of the body to reach every part of the body. In addition, our bodies actually emit more energy light than the sun. The sun is 1,000 times less efficient than the human body at converting mass into energy or light. 1 kilogram of the sun generates only 1 of a 5,000th of a watt on average, whereas the human body typically generates more than 1 watt per kilogram. The sun is 10 trillion times more massive, so it more than compensates with its size. Pound for pound, you shine brighter than the sun. A team of Dartmouth Medical School scholars in a study of DNA in relation to cosmic rhythms such as circadian rhythms, stress, and organism development determined that lunar cycles and light frequencies impacted at least 6 genes responsible for protein synthesis, organism metabolism, genetic repair, and healing. Japanese biophysicist T. Ueda considered light and sound interactions, knowing that electrons follow the force of acoustic waves and are measurable. From this, a mathematical equation governing the interaction between photon and phonon energy was determined. These divine celestial frequencies transmit through your body through the layers of liquid crystal making up the lattice or hydrated matrix through which genetic signaling occurs. To help explain how light sound signaling transmits through your body through the layers of liquid crystal making up the lattice or hydrated matrix through which genetic signaling occurs, Ueda concluded, when lattice vibration is introduced, the lattice vibration not only generates the waves with various frequencies, but also amplifies the incident wave resonantly. On a resonance, the amplification factor increases very rapidly as the number of the plates increases. Resonance frequencies change with the phases of vibration of each layer. Such amplification occurs except for the case that all layers oscillate with the same phase, namely that of shaking the system, even if the frequency of the lattice vibration is very small. Lattice sound vibration makes a photonic crystal an active media. The amplification is observable. This explains how a very small frequency of energy, imperceptible to human senses, is naturally amplified into higher volume signals of sound transposed into light, electromagnetically and bioacoustically manifesting your physical body, or as Dr. Horowitz describes, your personal biohologram in space-time. These findings also evidence the legitimacy of a cohesive theory explaining how 528 Hz music, featuring the energy at the heart of cosmic unity, demonstrates the capacity to vibrate DNA and your biohologram back into harmony or symphony with God's primordial frequencies. Since we are created in the image of God, which is shown through the Yaba symbolism, through the sound of His voice impacting on water, then your lips must be your co-creative instruments best used in problem solving, especially for healing. Therefore, for you to heal yourself and help create world health, cooperatively recreating everything with love is a wise and scientifically valid prescription, and the most powerful healing modality is freely available to you right now, your lips. Since the air we breathe, the atmosphere of our planet, the entire universe we live in is filled with water, the element which corresponds to the highest sphere in Judaism called Keter, who is the source of all creation, in other words, God, who is also known as Ehyeh. And knowing that your body is over 80% water and that 528 Hz is the frequency of love and bravery and healing. This energy travels like a boomerang along the cosmic string of the spinning, energy, balancing, double toroidal universe. What goes around comes around. Due to the spiraling 8, karma is automatically administered within the cosmic energy recycling system. Knowing that your body is a liquid crystal superconductor of sound and light, and that water is a liquid crystal superconductor of sound and light, and that water is the omniscient, all-knowing God in the Bible, Ehyeh, who is always sustaining and creating with mercy and love and compassion. This explains how the sound of 528 Hz frequency, which is the frequency of the sun, especially coupled with heartfelt loving intention to produce healing, can produce miraculous results. Research is revealing that the body is made up of unique molecular liquid crystalline structures. These living structures can create, transmit, and receive biophotons to facilitate communication between tissues and molecules. This communication also relies upon a quantum field of biophotons. These two processes, the crystalline and the quantum, interact to spread information around the body. This crystal matrix is critical for health, as it interconnects a person's internal self with the environment. Light travels through the body's crystal matrix into the DNA, when then produces bioholograms that create the body. The most conductive light matrix is the connective tissue, the largest organ in the body. The connective tissue is crystalline information. The collagenous molecules that encase the organs are liquid crystals, and the other, firmer tissues are considered solid crystals. The collagen molecules are also interesting in that they are semiconductors able to convey electricity and information. The connectivity tissue can therefore process information just like the semiconductor chips in your computer. Many researchers suggest that the meridians operate through the connective tissue. The connective tissue is therefore established one of the primary participants in the subtle energy anatomy, interlinking the biophoton and quantum or subtle with the physical. This crystal matrix is interrelated with quantum fields of photons that pulse through the body. These biophotons act upon the entire electromagnetic spectrum, transferring information through each of its layers. The movements are facilitated by the electromagnetic polarization of DNA, which acts as a guide to direct optical information. The electromagnetic and biophoton energies can either be coherent or incoherent. This coherency is at least partly within our control. Studies have shown that holding positive thoughts in our heart creates coherency between electromagnetic and biophoton emissions, which then changes the DNA so that our bodies are healthier. In other words, DNA can at least partly be controlled by thoughts. Brain waves. Your brain waves are simply the superposition of the multitude of electrical states being formed by your nervous system. Anywhere there's a nerve cell, there's electricity. It's just concentrated the greatest around your head because that's where the bulk of your nerve cells are. Being an electric field, all those overlying electric wave patterns that comprise your brain waves are governed by the same equations governing the electromagnetic spectrum, light particles, and everything else in the universe. The light seen coming from a star and the energy of your mind are one of the same type. Your thoughts are formed in this electric field. The measurable perturbations and disturbances in the brain's overall electrical field are your actual thoughts racing through your mind. The higher the frequency of our thought brain waves, the higher the frequency of our thoughts and brain waves, the higher our consciousness. The level of our consciousness is what makes our reality what it is and what it will continue to be. If you are seeking a change, set an intention, declare a path where you align your behaviors with your desire, then detach and allow the universe to handle the details. After all this evidence, you can see for yourself that our bodies are intelligent, energetic, and holographic, with self-healing and self-regenerating abilities. As Dr. Leonard Horowitz correctly describes us, you are a digital, bioholographic, precipitation, crystallization, miraculous manifestation of divine love vibrations coming out of water. And the ancients knew this. The ancients knew that the world was holographic, as they allocated certain geographic areas and body parts assigned to the zodiac. Aries had the head and face. Taurus has the neck and of a man the Adam's apple. Gemini has the shoulder and arms and hands. Cancer has the chest and lungs. Leo has the heart. Virgo has the stomach, the diaphragm, and small intestines. Libra has the lower parts of the belly and the navel. Scorpio has the genitals and anus. Sagittarius has the thighs. Capricorn has the knees. Aquarius has the legs and lower ankles. And Pisces has the feet. And just as the human body is divided into 12 sections based off the zodiac and ruled by each particular zodiacal sign, so are our interior organ systems. The human body is a grand design of unfathomable proportions with 12 distinct systems: skeletal, muscular, nervous, cardiovascular, digestive, endocrine, respiratory, lymphatic, generative, endocrine, immune, and dermal. And in your brain you have 12 cranial nerves that emerge directly from the brain. The olfactory nerve, which regulates sense of smell, the optic nerve, which regulates vision, the oculomotor nerve, which regulates raising eyelids, eye movement, regulation of the size of your pupils. Trochlear nerve, which regulates eye movements and proprioception. Trigeminal nerve, which regulates sensation of the head and face, chewing movements, and muscle sense. Abducens nerve, which produces movements of the eyes. Facial nerve, which regulates facial expressions, secretions of saliva and taste. Vestibulocochlear nerve, vestibulocochlear nerve, which regulates balance or equilibrium sense and hearing. Glossopharyngeal nerve, which regulates taste and other sensations of the tongue, swallowing, secretion of saliva, aid in reflex, control of blood pressure and respiration. The vagus nerve, which regulates the transmit impulses to muscles associated with speech, swallowing, the heart, smooth muscles of visceral organs in the thorax and abdomen. The accessory nerve, which regulates turning movements of the head, movements of the shoulder, and viscera and voice production. And the hypoglossal nerve, which regulates tongue movements. And that's it, guys. We are bioholographic words of God, words of Ehye, created through Yah, made in His image.